All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to the land of low friction. And today at Zero Friction Cycling, I'm going to be just running you through the, what we call the ultrasonic clean and pre-prep options, and basically, how Zero Friction Cycling will do the ultrasonic cleaning of the chains that we offer in various, super low friction lubricant options for you, be it molten speed wax, the Silka Hot Melt. Also offer the Rex Black Diamond now as well. They're the main ones. So if you're not going to be waxing, still the default option is to get a chain that is ultrasonically cleaned. So getting rid of that factory grease, which you have to do, and having the chain then waxed after it's been through the ultrasonic cleaning. Because no matter what your hopefully top lubricant choice is going to be, you do need to get that factory grease off. And once you've got the wax treatment on, once you've run that sort of 200, 300 kilometers, you can then move to whichever is your lubricant choice. You don't need to clean the wax off at all. So the pre-prep with the ultrasonic clean and wax is by far the most popular option. And it just saves yourself trying to have to deal with that factory grease, whether you're waxing or not waxing. So now we do a lot. So last year we did almost 3,000 pre-ultrasonic clean and wax prep chains. Really, the only reason it didn't quite make it to 3,000 was stock. Just couldn't get enough stock, so a lot of chains were always out of stock. Hopefully we'll crack that this year. And so that's been a really, really fun trend. So since I started Zero Friction Cycling, which I think is a bit over 6 years ago now, it's really quite funny. The first month, nobody knows you exist. I did 2 transactions that entire month. Month 2, I did 7 transactions, and not sure how many chains that was. Month 3, I did 9 transactions, and now we're up to, just in terms of pre-prep chains, we're almost 3,000 last year. So it's quite a lot to get done each week. So when you're doing pre-prep, to the volume that little Zero Friction Cycling is, things need to be, fairly efficient, and also need to ensure, obviously, that the prep is done perfectly every single time. So we've got processes absolutely, nailed down that we go through, from the ultrasonics, the drying in between through to the wax, which I'm going to be showing or taking through the steps later on in the video. What I'm doing here just to start with is I'm going to be just going through the recycling of the solvents that we do, because that's a big part of why Zero Friction Cycling is able to do this pre-prep pretty much at basically around at least half the price of pretty much any other reputable ultrasonic clean and pre-prep option out there in the world. So that's not counting your, goodness knows what you're getting stuff off, eBay or Amazon. Talking about, reputable, actually established companies that offer the pre-prep service. Generally speaking, you're looking at around about at least $60 a chain. Most of our pre-prep options for the ultrasonic clean and wax are ranging sort of around about the $25 to $30 option. So we're able to do that a lot cheaper. And a big part of why I'm able to do that a lot cheaper is being able to recycle the solvents. So the solvents that are used for the pre-prep, so here in Australia, it's a bit easier when, like sort of California, where a lot of stuff's been banned. Use mineral terps as the main solvent to dissolve the factory grease. Mineral terps is really, it's a lot better than degreaser. So 1, it doesn't leave as much of a film. 2, it's generally cheaper than degreaser. 3, it's quite a powerful solvent against greases and oils. And 4, it's really easily recycled. And 5, it's actually really low environmental toxicity. So it's actually, for those in Australia and similar countries, if you can get hold of mineral terps, that does make it a whole lot easier, and you can properly store that and then dispose of it properly. So mineral terps is the main solvent. And then we would use methylated spirits, which is also known as denatured alcohol, which is basically just pure alcohol with an additive to make it not palatable, that's a hard word for me, for drinking. So it's that is extremely low environmental toxicity. And I can't believe that is now banned in some states, but around the world, like California. But yeah, here in Australia, we can use those two. So those two chemicals are very easily obtained in Australia, and for the pre-prep, they do a perfect job. And they're really handy for those reasons, and I can do the recycling. So what I'm able to get back is basically I'm able to get back around 90% of the mineral terps that I use, and I'm able to get back around about sort of now 70-80% of the methylated spirits. So without that, so most chains go through 3 rounds of ultrasonic terps cleaning and 2 rounds of methylated spirits. So at basically 1 litre per 4-chain batch. So if I didn't get anything back, I'd be basically using 2 litres of fresh new mineral terps each time. So that cost would add up to a lot, and I'd have a huge amount to dispose of when you're prepping anywhere between 50 and 100 chains a week. And similar with methylated spirits, I'm sort of 2 batches there. So yeah, it would add up to a lot. So being able to get most of what I use back to go again and again makes it obviously vastly more economical for me, which means it's vastly more economical for you to be able to get those pre-prep options. And my, what I need to dispose of is so tiny that it just makes that side of things a whole lot easier as well. So, all right, enough rambling on that. I'm going to show you, I guess, step 1. So it's going to be a little bit of like a cooking show. It's going to be get something going, and then we can come back to sort of something here's I prepared earlier. So chains have just finished a mineral terps ultrasonic round. So I'm going to be pouring the mineral terps from here into the drum that I've got nearby. Then we're going to go out. I'm going to pour the drum, which now needs to be recycled, into my alcohol distiller. And I'll talk you through a little bit when I get out there. But for the moment, step 1 is I've got to get my terps from the ultrasonic to the drum. So now I've got chemicals, I guess, going, and I've got them, in an inside workshop. So whenever I'm handling the chemicals, although the toxicity of them is super low, there are still vapours, especially if it's been running and the terps are warm. And it's one of these things if you're doing something a lot for a long time, you don't even want really tiny bits of possible, sort of exposure that's going to maybe add up over a decade or more. So I use a mask when I'm handling the chemicals so that that's not an issue. Also, I have an air quality monitor, a pretty good one in here, which tells me straight away if any sort of fumes have increased. I have an industrial air purifier, which does a pretty phenomenal job of keeping everything mint. And should I have a spill, I've got a explosion-proof exhaust fan of pretty super power behind everything here, which clears out the air or gets that flowing straight away. And for any main spill areas, you'll see as we sort of go through, I've got bicarb soda, which just soaks up any spill. So, all right, enough of my waffle. Let's get on to demonstrating what we actually do. So, mask on. Alrighty, so yeah, I've got a little distilling area just outside the workshop, and so I've got 2. I've got one for recycling the mineral turpentine. I've got a separate one up on a shelf up there, which is used for recycling methylated spirits. They do need separate ones. They distill at completely different temperatures, and also the methylated spirits needs to be, that's the finishing round, so to make sure that there's no film left on the chain before it moves to the waxing. And so that really needs to be basically back to pure alcohol. I can't have that sort of cross-contaminated with the terps. And so now I have had some inquiries over time about people at home looking to do this. They think it's a great idea and there's a bit of interest in it. But honestly, for at home, for the number of chains you're going to wear through, especially on a top lubricant choice, so the number of times you need to do a getting rid of the factory grease yourself, really shouldn't be that often, and it's not quite plug and play. None of this equipment's really expensive, but there's a bit of faffing around. The main one, especially for the mineral terps, is that the terps will eat the gasket that these come with. So I use redo a silicon gasket on that, and it needs to be redone periodically. So yeah, it's not something that would really be viable for yourself doing 1 or 2 or 5 chains a year. But when you're doing 50 to 100 a week, obviously this just saves so much money. And also helpful, so this is a 15 amp induction plate, but I think I'd mentioned before, so we're pretty well set up here. We've got a 25 kilowatt solar system. We've got 4 Tesla Powerwall batteries between the house, the workshop, and we've got 2 electric cars, the Honda Ioniq and the Tesla Model 3. Across the year, we have no energy costs. So all of the credit we get for surplus energy in summer covers any time we need to purchase electricity from the grid during winter, but most of the year we're running directly off the solar and the batteries and not needing to pull anything from the grid. So, but it all adds up, so I don't have any energy costs in running the ZFC workshop, which is pretty cool. All right, so I'll move to just getting this going. So I just got to put my mask back on again, and then I'll get a bit of a shot of what the terps looks like at the start, and then what it looks like after. Cool. We'll come back later today and we'll see what that looks like when it's done. Alrighty, so here we are. So from setting this one going, did a whole bunch of other filming. Now we're back and this has finished doing its distilling. So I can take the lid off this now, and we can now see that we have some beautiful, clean, recycled mineral turpentine again, looking perfect versus what went in there. So I'll just put my mask on. I'm just going to pour that into the container. So I'll just show you the inside of the distiller pot. So there will still be a little bit left. And so what I normally do, so I normally run this for the max 3 hours, which is the longest the timer goes. There'll still be a little bit left in there. And so what I'll do is I normally will put that on for a second run for about usually 70 minutes, and that will distill the rest. And whatever's left just gets baked into the bottom. So I don't have anything to worry about disposing. And so I'll do that, set that up a bit later. But that's basically, yeah, just showing a little bit of the distilling. And I'll bring this inside as well. That was one I sort of showed before, which is the last round of sort of methylated spirits that I redistilled through the one that I have for methylated spirits. And yeah, just something that's sort of normally running once or twice a week to keep a lot of the solvent product that we use coming back into the workshop, so that yeah, it's just a better thing all around in many ways. So yeah, we'll move back in and I'll go through the pre-prep. All right, yeah, so back from showing the distilling, so how we recycle back a lot of the solvents that we use for the pre-prep. I'll just run through, I guess, yeah, what actually is the ultrasonic clean or what is a pre-prep sort of process here at Zero Friction Cycling for all the pre-prep chains that we're doing and sending out. So these two ultrasonics, these are the main workhorse ones. So these two are pretty much used for the vast majority of the pre-prep options. And so what happens is I do them in batches of 4. So 4 chains will go in here. This is mineral turpentine, so that's stage 1. And so the chains will go in, I just hit go, it runs for a 30-minute run. And when that's done, so from the first bath, now it's a little bit dependent on the chain type. YBN and Shimano take 3 bars at 1 litre per bath per 4 chains, so 250 ml times 3. So the first bath obviously soaks up a lot of the factory grease. The second bath, it's comes out looking almost perfect. Third bath, it's super clean, so it's leaving not much to need to do for the methylated spirits. From the 3 rounds for those chains, so Campy normally 4, SRAM pain in the butt 5. SRAM's factory grease is a real pain. 5 rounds takes a bit of time to get through. But from there, so now you will have seen from other sort of prep things that once from the cleaning round to the next round does help if you dry the chain. There's less stuff for the finishing alcohol to have to deal with if you've dried the previous solvent or degreaser. So if you're just doing it at home, it's pretty easy to dry the chain. You can hang it to dry. You can blow it with a hair dryer. Sorry, long day. Or heat gun. Hair gun sounds good. For myself, obviously, I need to be keeping the batches moving. So the batch of 4 chains will come out from mineral terps, goes into an air fryer. A nice air fryer is great. So I run that for 10 minutes on 80 degrees, and they come out perfectly dry. And then, so these chains have just finished their mineral terps bars, so they're now going to be able to go into the ultrasonic for the methylated spirits. And all chain types, it's 2 rounds of methylated spirits. So at again 1 litre, and they get 2 30-minute rounds. And after the methylated spirits, after the 2 baths, back into the air fryer to get perfectly dry, ready to go, and we'll sort of show the wax pots after. So basically, as a minimum, chains will go through basically 2.5 hours of ultrasonic cleaning. And these units are sort of, a perfect sort of power for cleaning bicycle chains. So I went through in the ultrasonic guide and race guide. So a lot of cheap ultrasonics, they don't do, sorry, there's a bit of background noise there with the vacuum cleaner. Yeah, cheap ultrasonics, their claimed power is often pretty bad. So it might say it's a 100 watt ultrasonic, but it might be a 6 litre ultrasonic unit, not a really nice tidy 2 litre unit. So like this is 100 watts in a 2 litre unit, so it's basically 50 watt per litre power, which is great. If it's 100 watts over 6 litres, it's getting pretty low power. So, and like all tools, there's the right strength. So you can get industrial ultrasonics that can be too powerful and can actually pit the chain metal or strip coatings off. Not powerful enough. It might be good for your jewellery, not so awesome for, or as effective as cleaning a chain. The other side though as well is at home you don't need an ultrasonic. Ultrasonic does have some benefits. So if you're providing a professional service, then it helps to obviously be providing things to the highest level that you can. So ultrasonics will get out some of the very fine metal particles from manufacture that doing the bars in a container will not do. But especially if it's just your training chain, not a dedicated race chain, you will never ever be able to track a difference between, say, a chain that's been ultrasonically cleaned and prepped versus the chain that you do at home in a container, just by soaking it and giving it some agitated bars. Perfectly awesome job. You don't have to get an ultrasonic. Ultrasonics mainly are for the most avid home tinkerers, or those that are really going the whole 9 yards, following the guide for race chain prep. Or, if you really want to, if you're sticking with wet lubricants, the best periodic maintenance for wet lubricants would be obviously off bike and into an ultrasonic. It's going to get into the tiny nooks and crannies and fissures that a agitated container bath won't. So for avid tinkerers, sticking with wet lubes, do a lot of riding, got multiple bikes, maybe they're sort of worth it if you like to do it. But 99.9% of you never ever have to worry about, should I feel the need to go out and buy an ultrasonic. So definitely don't need it for waxing. You definitely really don't need it for anything. But they're the sort of the main use cases. But yeah, obviously for ZFC, providing a professional service, then getting things done to a brilliantly perfect level every single time is obviously an important part of doing business. So yeah, so now in terms of, I guess, the solvent use as well, so the final bath of the mineral turpentine is perfectly awesome to be used as bath 1 for the next batch of chains. So the last bath is just reused straight into that, and then baths 2 and 3 go into the drum for recycling. Similar with the methylated spirits, the second bath is then perfect for bath 1. So I'm only using basically one new sort of 1 litre fresh bath of methylated spirits per round. I'm using, depending on the chain type, usually sort of 2 or 3, or if it's SRAM, 4 litres of new product or fresh terps coming in to complete the chains. But most of that, thankfully, is recycled for both of these, which helps heaps. This ultrasonic here, so this one is fairly expensive. It's a bit more powerful, but it also has what's called pulse and sweep wave, which these do not. And the pulse and sweep wave is really handy for ultrasonicking in the wax. So when we're doing the race chains, after they're breaking, run on the race chain machine. They're put through double the amount of ultrasonic cleaning rounds on average, and depending on the chain type, it can be more. And then it is the wax, so fresh wax is ultrasonic in to the chain via this much more groovy ultrasonic even than these, which are perfect for the normal prep. And yeah, so that's pretty much, I guess, the cleaning prep stage. And we'll cut across to what happens just on the final part, which is the waxing stage and I guess the packaging up. Sorry, one last thing I forgot. I did line them out here a bit. So you may see, so I've got some tags. I normally keep them in a drawer, but in case you're wondering, so for those that send chains in to me, so we have a fair few chains that are sent in to myself to do the prep. So these are customer bought chains. So they might be the chain off their bike, their OEM chain, or a chain that they've already got, and they want to have that prep by myself versus faffing around with solvents and doing it at home. Then yeah, you may see on your package, when it's sort of sent back, it may say something like red tag, blue key, green tag, things like that. So when a custom chain comes in, the tag is threaded onto the end of your chain and recorded onto your package that it is the red tag. So I know, especially if I've got multiple customer chains going at once, this chain is Bob's, this chain is Jane's. And to date, I haven't mixed up anyone's chains, so that's great. So it seems to be simple and so far infallible, which is good because I can get distracted. Yeah, so once the final methylated spirits bath has been done and the chain's dried in my lovely air fryer, then they come in here, they're threaded onto a swisher tool, and they go into, I've got my M-Speed wax pot here. This is the hot melt pot. And so, and that's the bulk of the pre-preps. So there are some other prep types, such as if someone knows they're never going to wax and stay with the top wet lube, then it might be a black diamond prep. But again, even if you're going with the wet lube, you can apply that directly over your M-Speed wax or hot melt prep chain anyway. But overall, by far, so literally 95% of the chains that ZOC sells are pre-prepped chains. So that shows a pretty strong desire for people not to do their prep at home. And overall, that's apart from yes, it adds a little bit of margin, but it's not much. So as I said, most of the pre-prep is usually only around about sort of 24 to 29.90 extra on top of the chain. And that is, as I mentioned at the start, is very, very cheap versus pretty much any other reputable place offering a proper professional pre-prep service. So it's not adding a lot. The main thing is that it's I guess it's an enabler in that it enables people to just get straight onto something awesome and low friction for their lovely bike without them having to do all the faff. And so by providing that, I guess, more easy enabler, that just means that more people are sort of buying chains overall, and the good lubricant to go with the chain. So it's not sort of about trying to make huge margin on the chain prep service itself. It just by default really helps both sides. So there's, I guess, a really good side to it from that. The other part is that, I guess, now you're sort of seeing that really there's not sort of any bunch of solvent being poured out into backyards or down water drains or being improperly disposed of, which is what I fear happens with a lot of people that are cleaning their drivetrains, either be it factory grease or maintaining their drivetrains with a degreaser. If we think about sort of millions of households around the world cleaning their chains, and where is all this stuff going? I think, or I fear that a lot of it is not going to somewhere responsible or being disposed of properly. And I think I've talked on it before. There is a little bit of still, I would say, a little bit of lack of clarity on some of the environmental degreasers. So there are a number of very environmentally friendly degreasers on the market now, and that is awesome. I guess an environmentally friendly degreaser is better than a really toxic degreaser. But just bear in mind, what are you cleaning off the chain? If what you're cleaning off the chain is factory grease, then that isn't environmentally friendly. So you've got an environmentally friendly product you've now contaminated with a not environmentally friendly product, so it's not safe to just pour down your drain or tip out into backyard if it might get into groundwater or whatever else. So just take into account, and as part of the lubricant choice matrix that I'll be trying to work on, I'm going to be trying to put on there the environmental credentials of that particular lubricant choice. But sans me doing that, you can do that yourself. What lubricant are you using? Check the manufacturer on the packaging, on their website. What's the environmental sort of standing of that lubricant? And if you're unsure, write to the manufacturer and ask them and get clarification, because you should know with what you're cleaning off, is that something you need to really worry about for disposal or not? Because if you've got an environmentally friendly degreaser and you have an environmentally friendly lubricant, then yeehaw if you need to clean it with a degreaser to reset that chain back to lovely clean. So yeah, that's just a little bit on that side. So yeah, but basically they go from there to the wax spots. Now I have, especially with molten speed wax, I use the same. Silka didn't stipulate because they know that I do the right thing. But as far as I know, I am the only authorized company in the world, apart from molten speed wax themselves, to be able to offer commercially a pre-prepped M-speed wax chain. And that's because they've obviously got 100% trust that the chains that I pre-prep are done perfectly every time. Because if somebody's doing a terrible backyard job and shortcutting the process, or just don't really know what they're doing, and they have a very poor wax adherence to the chain, and the customer then riding that wax chain has a pretty bad experience with the chain feeling and sounding horribly dry very quickly, they're going to think, man, this M-speed wax stuff's pretty terrible, instead of having an awesome experience and thinking this M-speed wax stuff is pretty awesome. So I'm the only one authorised. Local bike stores, if they know what they're doing, are allowed obviously to do it, but in terms of just selling pre-prep chains to the world, I'm the only one outside of M-speed wax allowed to do so, and I believe it's the same for Silka. Part of that with M-speed wax is I do have some, sort of strict guidelines where how many brand new chains can see X amount of wax, so I have to stick with that. I am able to buy as opposed to the pucks that we now get. So I get the M-speed wax in bulk wax slabs, so it's a bit cheaper and less wasteful getting it that way versus using pre-packaged stuff. And same with Silka, I get bulk hot melt to do that with the Silka, and I follow the same number of chains to wax ratio before changing to a fresh batch of wax. And surplus wax, I get more surplus wax than I can possibly use for my own cycling, and I'm also usually field testing products that I'm testing, so I don't always get to use my own wax all the time anyway. So I pour them out in aluminium barbecue trays, and for the last year or so, I've been sort of donating those wax slabs to through the mountain bike club, so that juniors and people on a budget trying to keep their bicycle drivetrains running can get wax for free. So they just sort of get handed out to junior riders for prizes, and so yeah, and hopefully get them on a low friction path forever. I've got my own wax pot. This is for my 2-pot system, and then I've got some waxes on test, so the new wax batches are going into the the other pot there for testing a new wax product, which I think will come to market soon. But that's basically wax and wax pots and other stuff I rambled on. So final stage, so once they've been waxed and hung up and set, normally, so most days I'll just be grabbing them off the hanging rail there, and they go into 12-speed chains, 11-speed chains, 10-speed and lower. And then when I get a block and I put on an awesome podcast or YouTube vid of all the various stuff I love to listen to, then I will start grabbing chains, and they'll be put through the little thing that we use, which we've demonstrated on the waxing videos, to break the wax bond. Then they're repackaged into a sleeve, which unfortunately for a lot of chains is necessary because the box is greasy. I can't put the wax chain straight back into the box. They need the protection. Sealed with the impulse heater, sticker denoting whether it's M-speed wax or hot melt or black diamond, put onto the package so everyone knows what it is. You may notice this wonderful contraption has become necessary because it can be hard to tell sometimes, or to double check, making sure, I need to make sure that the chain is definitely 12 speed, not 11 speed, so I'm definitely packaging up the right chain. And also, is it an M8100 Shimano or is it an M9100 Shimano? And I need to, these days, we even have to check lengths. Is it 116 length chain? Is it 126? We've even got some 138. So the number of chains that types that we do. So we think we've got, say, we've got 8-speed, 9-speed chains, only one type. 10-speed, we've got the YBN silver, black and gold. 11-speed, we have the YBN silver solid plate, gold solid plate, black, and rainbow. And then 12-speed, we have the YBN black, gold, silver, and rainbow. We've got XX1, sorry for background noise there, we've got XX1 black, gold, copper, rainbow, XO1 silver, we've got SRAM Axis Road Force, Axis Road red, and we have M8100, which is XT Ultegra, we've got M9100, which is Durace or XTR, and they vary in 3 different link lengths, and then across that they can be prepped in either obviously M-speed wax or hot melt, full race prep, Rex black diamond with race day spray. So I'm not sure what that multiplies out to. I think last check it's a lot of chain variations, and so it's a lot of prep. I try to keep most in stock as much as possible, obviously, and prepped, ready to go, so I can get the shipments out through my retail Supreme Leader Andrew as much as possible. But not always possible to have all options in all prep types ready to go. So normally going pretty hard throughout the working day just to keep the chain preps going. So in the busy times, as I said, our biggest week has been basically 100. Often, usually sort of hovering around the 70. Quiet week might be 50. So it's still pretty busy stuff. So, but yeah, hopefully that was a fun little insight into the world of pre-prep chains. If doing yourself though, we've got a new chain prep guide, a much more concise and easy to follow version up on the website for if you are doing chain pre-prep at home, and how to do that. So just go to the instructions tab and that will be on there. But this is how we do it here to get you a perfectly prepped chain every time. So thanks for watching, and let me know how we go. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and other YouTubey type things, like share with your friends. So that'll keep you up to date with the latest low friction news and hints and tips. And also put any comments down below, and I can try to look at those and take them into account for future episodes.